What's up, Beam Drive? Nick here in Ottawa, and today I'd like to share some thoughts on the topic of flat feet. So the term flat feet gets thrown around a lot, and I think a lot of people internalize flat feet as a label that describes their feet and their foot function. But in reality, the word flat feet really describes a static snapshot of what your foot looks like, right? At one point in time. Like if someone took a picture and they see that you have less of a pronounced arch, and so you got flat feet. And really it doesn't tell very much of the story, and it's not actually that important in terms of what your feet look like in one instance of time. What's really more important is what your feet look like and what they're doing during motion, right? How functional are your feet? How well do you control the arch of your foot? And that is significantly more important than what your foot looks like at one point in time. Okay, so I think we have to focus more on foot function instead of what the arch looks like. And when someone says you've got flat feet, it doesn't actually mean that you're stuck having flat feet. It means that right now, based on the snapshot they took, the arch of your foot is not structurally organizing itself in a strong, stable way. Okay? Now, we did a hip to foot connection video, which is available for Beam Tribe members. But really what that covers is the fact that your hips have a significant impact and are the chief determinant of what the arch of your foot looks like. So if you've got flat feet where the arch of your foot is kind of pancaked to the ground, there's probably something there to work on. But how your foot works during motion and how well you're able to control the arch of your foot really has a lot to do with your hip function. So if your hips are stiff and they can't rotate, right, they're stuck, because we often sit at 90 degrees, versus I'm using our new S20 stool, and I'm significantly below parallel, and I'm free to rotate my hips quite a bit. And the hip rotation is actually what generates the arch of your foot. So if you've got feet that are stuck in this pronated, which is like that flattened arch position, it usually means you got a little bit of work to do on your hip mobility. Now, unfortunately, the term flat feet is used as a label by a lot of people who are health professionals and who are trained to say that they have a solution for flat feet. And namely, the big solution that they offer is orthotics, right? An artificial support to hold the arch of your foot up. What they don't realize is that the arch of the foot is dynamic and it can change, right? If you improve your hip function, you improve your ability to control your arch. If you improve your foot mobility and your brain's awareness of what your foot is doing in space, you improve the ability to control your arch. And so putting a support under your foot to solve the problem of flat feet really it ends up actually making the problem worse, right? So if your brain doesn't know to turn your hips on and rotate your hip and generate torque to create the arch of the foot, if your brain doesn't know to engage the foot muscles to organize all those 26 bones and 33 joints into a way that's structurally stable, the worst thing you can do is do it for it, because now it has zero signal that it needs to do that, right? So by supporting your foot, by supporting your arch artificially, you essentially systematically weaken all the muscles that are designed to do that naturally, and you stiffen up a lot of the joints that are supposed to have motion so that it can flatten and resupinate. So flattening the arch is called pronation. Reforming the arch is called supination. Your foot needs to be able to do both. In fact, if it can't, it'll give you big problems upstream, right? Because that flattening and resupinating motion is actually a very powerful shock absorption strategy when we move. Very, very important. It needs to be able to do both. If you wear supportive shoes that hold the arch in the high position, or orthotics, you eliminate the ability to absorb impact forces at the foot. And whatever you can't absorb there goes upstream to your knees, to your hips, to your spine. And so orthotics really are a very poor solution to foot problems, because it's just one-dimensional, right? It looks at the foot as its own entity without having any effect from the hip upstream, and that's a very limited way of looking at things, okay? So flat feet doesn't really tell you a whole lot of information. It's really more about how well do you control the arch of your foot. Controlling the arch of your foot comes primarily from your hip joints. So it kind of if you got feet that are stuck in a flattened position, it tells you that you usually have a little bit of work to do at your hip. In order for your foot to be able to resupinate and create an arch, the bones of your foot and the joints of your feet have to be able to organize themselves and be dynamic. So if your feet are really stiff because you've worn rigid supportive shoes your whole life, or you just haven't used your feet in their natural way, by using natural footwear or going barefoot, you got a little bit of work to do there as well. But if someone's told you you've got flat feet, you can work on it. You don't have to have them forever. It has a lot to do with your hips and your foot mobility, and wearing supportive stiff shoes or wearing orthotics is not the solution to flat feet. And we need to think more about foot function and how well we control the arch instead of just what the arch looks like in a static snapshot. So hopefully that gives you a broader perspective when when the word flat feet comes up. It's something you can work on, and we will have a bunch more videos in Beam Tribe available to Beam Tribe members, showing you how to reclaim strong functional feet that can create an arch instead of being stuck in pronation. Thanks for listening. Catch you in the next video.